So I just want to tell you a little bit about why we've decided to do this training. Obviously, if you're here, you're on my list, and you know that I teach a lot of email marketing and a lot of email copywriting and a lot to do with sending people ongoing messages, especially if you have a list. And the email deliverability is one of the key things that you have to keep in mind. It's not the world's sexiest thing because, like, oh, send people the top three emails that's gonna generate you 10K overnight. That's a better hook, unfortunately. But what makes or breaks this usually is the email deliverability itself. And Google, Yahoo, and the big mailbox providers are always like testing new things. They're always implementing new stuff. But it's very hard to keep up with all those changes, even to me, who concentrates more on the messaging side and the conversion rate optimization side of email marketing. But I was very happy when we recently had a conversation with Scott, and he happens to be a high-level email deliverability expert. And we started talking, and he mentioned a few new changes that are happening right now, and I wasn't even aware of those. So the idea came up that why not do a training about this to the good people on my list? Because they could certainly learn a lot from it, and I can also certainly learn a lot from it. So that's why we're here. That's why training is happening. It's going to be recorded. So I'm definitely going to send that out, and it's going to be hilarious with all the Cheba tests. But we definitely encourage you, or I at least definitely encourage you to stay until the end if you can. It's going to be like, Scott, how much time have you blocked off for this?
I've got 90 minutes, so we're good with some Q&A and everything as well. So
There's going to be plenty of Q&A as well. So yeah, I'm going to be manning the chat, and I'm just going to hand it over to Scott. Scott, welcome. Take it from here.
awesome. Well, thanks, Chaba. I really appreciate you putting this on and getting this information out. And so glad that everybody is here today and really interested in learning about what we're calling the end of email marketing as we know it. And so let me share my screen here. But basically, there are a lot of new rules that are completely forcing a reinvention of how you and I connect with our subscribers. The old way of doing email marketing is no longer working. And so the people who understand this new landscape and they make the necessary shifts, these are the people that are going to reap the rewards of what Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo are rolling out. So just to let you know, I'm going to go rapid fire today because there is a lot of information to cover because there's so much going on in the email marketing world that I want to make sure that I get you as much of that information as possible. So definitely take notes. You may want to go back and listen to the recording when Chava sends this out. If there's anything that you missed, as we are going through, feel free to put questions into the chat. We'll hold those questions until the very end. But as you think of things, feel free to put those in there, and then we can come back and answer those. So just a little bit about me. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've got that bug that it's like I can't work for anybody else. I have to do my own thing. I started my first business, which was an IT company in small southern Indiana way back in 2004. And as I was learning how to grow that business and just attract new clients and just really serve clients in a fantastic way, obviously I did a lot of study in the realm of marketing. And I loved everything that I was learning. And I was like, oh, I have a passion for this. And I also have a passion for teaching. And I was like, I need to be doing something in that realm. I need to be teaching people, and marketing is one of those things. And finally, by about 2017, I kind of got burnt out on technology. All of the changes that were happening in the computer world and Microsoft making a lot of changes and just fixing broken computers and removing viruses and all that type of stuff. It just got old really quickly. And so I stepped away from that business in 2017, turned that over to my employees, and I focused strictly on the marketing side of things, marketing strategy and automation. And of course, the big part of that was email marketing. And so as I started helping a lot of businesses with marketing strategy and marketing automation, I really fell in love with the email marketing portion of things and started to see that there were a lot of pieces to the puzzle that many small business owners and entrepreneurs and email marketers weren't aware of when it came to getting their emails delivered and, more importantly, acted upon. And so I started to go down the rabbit trail of specializing in what I call hit the inbox. And so I became a certified inbox optimization specialist. Also studied a lot of email copywriting, especially the direct response style of email copywriting that gets people to take action on your emails, because we all want to make money from our emails, right? And so then in 2022, I published my book, Hit the Inbox, and have just been helping a lot of entrepreneurs with the whole world of email marketing since then. So that's just a little bit of background on me. And let's kind of dive into the reason why you all are here today. And the first question that I want to ask you is email marketing worth the investment? If you would, take just a moment to put into the chat. Yes, if you think email marketing is worth the investment. Unsure, or I don't think so. So just type into the chat, yes, no. All right, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. All right, I'm told that it is. All right, good. Yeah. Well, here's the latest statistics that we have. Email marketing really is worth the investment. If you look at all these other channels, other opportunities for businesses to do marketing, banner ads, catalogs, mobile marketing, keywords ad, internet display ads, SEO, and one thing that's not mentioned on this particular chart, our social media ads, but every single one of those is less of a return on investment than email marketing. Email marketing is where the money is made. It's still, despite all of the bells and whistles and all of the shiny objects that fall into our world, like, hey, you got to try this new marketing media. Still, the number one revenue generator for businesses is email marketing. It's $44 for every dollar that you spend on email. That's amazing. But the sad part is that most people don't realize that, because email marketing, compared to a lot of other things, is cheap. I mean, you think about it. Like, you can get, your email CRM for a few $100s a month, and you can load it up with your contacts. And then beyond that, it doesn't cost you technically to send any emails. So email marketing is basically free. But if you go do Facebook ads or TikTok ads or other social media marketing, you have an investment that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. And so what I find is a lot of people look at emails like, oh, it's free, I can just blast out an email, and they don't really think about how they can maximize what they are investing in email marketing to get the biggest return out of it. And that's the sad part about life. I mean, you think about most things. If we sign up for something that's free, how serious are we likely to take that? As opposed to if we've made an investment in a course, in a training, in a service, then we're likely to put more effort into it so that we can get back at least what we've put into it, right? And that translates into today's training. This is a free training that Chaba has decided to offer you. But sadly, 93% of you will leave today's webinar and say, oh, that was cool, that was great information, but do nothing with it. Why? Because it was free. It's just how we're wired as humans, right? But there's a huge opportunity. I'm going to share that with you throughout this presentation today. But there's a huge opportunity for those of you who understand that email marketing is worth the investment. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time, energy, thought, that goes into your entire email marketing. So my question that I have for you, what is your ROI on email marketing? Have you taken time to even do that calculation? Most of us as small business owners, we have so many different things that we're doing, especially here at the end of the year. There's a lot of things that we're focusing on, and we don't take the time to sit down and think about, ooh, how much money did we make with our email campaigns over the past 12 months? What's the potential that we have to make over the next 12 months? So I encourage you, really keep in the back of your mind, what's my ROI with my email marketing, and how can I improve that? Now, what I find is a lot of people are literally burning money with their email marketing. Most small business owners that I consult with, they're literally just, they might as well just take their cash, throw it on the street, and light it on fire. Or better yet, just let me and Chava know, we'll send you our address and you can just, send it to our bank accounts, right? If that's how you're taking email marketing, it's not doing you any good. Don't throw away money. Email marketing is the biggest cash cow that you can have in your business. And here's the opportunity that you have for this. Now, here's the challenge. And I'm sure that many of you have started experiencing this. So way back in February, and actually it was October of 2023, that Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, they all started working together to make some serious changes on what I called at that time the anti-spam crackdown. And it caught the major attention of the major news outlets and even business magazines like Inc. And this was the headline for one of their articles on their website. After 19 years, Google announced its most significant update to Gmail yet. It'll change your inbox forever. Sadly, they don't have a good marketer working for them because the headline, the true lead of this article, is buried in the light gray text. Email marketers are going to have to play by Google's rules. Email marketers are going to have to play by Google's rules. That's the real headline of this story. And they started announcing this way back in October of 2023. So they gave people plenty of heads up about this. And then the enforcement started to happen. So in February of 2024, Google and Yahoo especially, and then Microsoft and Apple kind of followed behind, they started introducing their new authentication requirements. So if you think about email marketing and kind of take it out of the email marketing world for just a minute, and just imagine that you're driving down the highway. There's the email marketing highway that you're driving on. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, they make the laws. They write the rules of the road. And you and I, sending our emails, driving down that highway, we have to follow those rules. And one of the rules that they started enforcing with the full authentication requirements are that you have to have certain pieces of identification in order for your emails to legally drive down that email marketing highway. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. So they had these new authentication requirements and they told everybody in February, all right, we're going to start enforcing these. They gave us a grace period of February and March. And then finally in April, they were like, okay, we're going to start slowly enforcing these at about 25%. And what they would do is anybody who was non-compliant at that time, they would get some temporary errors when their emails were sent. So your emails may not get delivered immediately. They may be delayed. And they would send a message back saying, hey, you've got problems. We can't let you continue doing this. Finally, in June, they started stricter enforcement, about 50%, and they had increased rejection rates. So in April, they were saying, okay, we're going to let your email messages through. In June, they were like, hey, you've had enough time. You've had at least 5 months, if not longer, to get ready for this. We're going to start refusing to deliver your emails. In October, they began full enforcement with potential blocking for non-compliance. So in June, they started to send them to junk or spam. In October, it's not only we might send it to junk or spam, totally bypassing the inbox, but we may completely reject those emails and not even accept them for delivery at all. Now, can you imagine that if you're sending 1,000 emails and 700 of them don't even get accepted for delivery? How devastating would that be for that launch that you're wanting to do, right? Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo have ramped it up. And here's something that has really happened. There was a silent change that happened over Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And many of you may have noticed this. More and more emails are going to the promotions and the updates tab inside of Google as opposed to the inbox. There's filtering going on. And this was not an announced change by Google. They just kind of subtly did this behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden, people started noticing it around the Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday. So if your emails are coming from a bulk email marketing platform, MailChimp, Keep, ActiveCampaign, HighLevel, Aweber, Constant Contact, Klaviyo, there's a bunch of them out there, more than likely, your emails are starting to go to the promotions and updates tab. Now, before you panic about that, because there's been a lot of false information and scam artists out there that have kind of been harping on the promotions tab, that it's the end all of your business. The facts is that only about 20% of all Gmail users actually have the tabs enabled in Google Workspace or Gmail. So only 20%, okay? Now let's take that even further. Most people's lists are made up of anywhere from about 42 to 57% of Gmail addresses. So let's just take 50%, okay? Let's say half of your list are Gmail or Google Workspace addresses. Of that 50%, only 20% of those potentially have tabs enabled, right? So if I take 30% or 20% of that 50%, now I only have 10% of my list that potentially have tabs enabled where my emails are going into the promotions folder. All right. Now, if you add on top of that, that it doesn't matter what email service provider that people are using, whether it's Gmail, Hotmail, Office 365, whatever, 54.14% of people check their email using the Apple Mail software. So they have a Mac computer. The built-in software to check email is Apple Mail. They have an iPhone or an iPad. The built-in software is Apple Mail. So you take that 54% of the 10%, now you've got like maybe 5% of your list that your emails are potentially going to the promotions tab. All right. So it's not necessarily as disastrous as some people will have you think. But you will notice that you will have a slight decline in your open rates and in your click rates. So it is something that you need to be aware of. Why? Because it is a change that Google is putting out into the world. And Microsoft and Apple and Yahoo are going to start to follow suit. All right. So this is kind of that timeline. These are the changes that have been happening. Now, I want to clear up a few other misconceptions as well, because a lot of people have, especially early on, way back in February and March of this year, there was a lot of confusion and misconception about who needs to abide by these new rules. Well, these are screenshots here from Google and from Yahoo. These are their best practice guides for sending emails. Notice what I have highlighted in all three of these screenshots. Type into the chat, if you would, the one word that is common amongst all three of those. What's the same among all three of those? You guys got it. Mia, Wendy, all, right? The word all. Now, the last time that I checked, the word all means all, right? If you have kids and you're getting them ready for bed and you tell them, hey, pick up all of your toys off the floor and put them into the toy box. Do you mean that they can leave 3 or 4 of them laying around, but the rest of them can go into the toy box? Or when you say all, you mean every last one of them. Like there should be 0 laying out on the floor. All means all. And that's exactly what Google and Yahoo mean as well. Well, a lot of people, they were saying, but Google said 5,000 messages a day. So if you send more than 5,000 messages a day, you have to follow these requirements. Okay, so Google did say 5,000 messages a day to Gmail accounts. But the problem is that says that's defining what a bulk sender is. And as is human nature, we tend to just focus in on one thing, and that's what we go with instead of looking at the entire picture. Remember, Google is not the only mailbox provider that's out there. There's Yahoo, Microsoft, Apple, and several others. Here's what Yahoo says about a bulk sender. They say that a bulk sender is classified as an email sender sending a significant volume of mail. Note the last sentence. We will not specify a volume threshold. Google says, hey, you're a bulk sender, so you have a few extra requirements, but you're a bulk sender if you send 5,000 emails to Gmail accounts in a day. But Yahoo says, hey, we're not going to tell you how many that is. It might be 200. It might be 50. It might be 5,000. It could be 5 million. Yahoo is not going to tell you. If you want your emails delivered, wouldn't it make sense to err on the side of caution and be like, oh, okay, Yahoo's not going to tell us what their threshold is, so we need to abide by all of the rules anyway. Right? So don't get hung up on just cherry picking the things that seem to be important and finding the loopholes of like, oh, I don't have to do that because I don't think that applies to me, because you need to be looking at the entire picture of things. So what are the key rule changes that we need to be aware of? This is kind of the meat of today's content. And all 3 of these are equally important. All 3 of them are equally important. You can't just pick one rule and say, okay, I'm abiding by that, I'm good to go. No, these are the new rules of driving on the email marketing highway. If you violate any one of these, you're going to get in serious trouble, and chances are you're going to be taken to email jail. So the number 1, full domain authentication, properly configured for every platform from which you send email. That is a pregnant statement right there. There's nothing in there that really can be left out. So full domain authentication, right? We're going to talk about what that is in just a minute, but it has to be full domain authentication. It can't just be partial. It can't be one of the 3. It's full domain authentication. It's an all or nothing. Secondly, it has to be properly configured. Your authentication has to be properly configured. And I'm going to venture a guess that out of everybody here today, that technically 100% of you are properly configured, but you have a cyber liability risk that you don't even know about because your email service provider, ActiveCampaign, Keep, MailChimp, whatever, didn't tell you about it. So you have a vulnerability that you are unaware of. Secondly, with the properly configured, if you relied on your web developer, if you relied on your IT person to configure your authentication, you probably have problems. Way back in October, November, December of 2023, and even the early part of this year, I was just for research going out and checking domain authentication for on a lot of different websites, a lot of businesses. A good number of them were IT companies, people who are well versed in technology, who you would think would know how to properly set up domain authentication. A full 78% of them had problems with their domain authentication that once the rules took effect, that it would cause their emails to go to junk or spam or not get delivered at all. 78% of IT people don't know how to properly set up domain authentication. So that's important. Full domain authentication, properly configured, and then for every platform. Think about all of the software that you use online that sends emails from your domain. Obviously, you have your one-to-one email. So you're using Google Workspace or Office 365, right? Then you have your CRM, your email marketing software. So ActiveCampaign, Klaviyo, Keep, High Level, whatever that it is. But there's a lot of other platforms that people don't think about as well. So a lot of people potentially are thinking about, they have Shopify. They have, other e-commerce platforms like WooCommerce, so part of your website. Some people have membership sites like Kajabi and various things like that. Those are all platforms. Every single platform, you have to make sure that you have fully authenticated so that you can send your emails from. So full domain authentication, properly configured for anywhere that's sending an email that can come from your domain. That's the number one rule change. The second rule change, you have to maintain low spam complaints and minimal bounces below the specified thresholds. They are heavily enforcing this. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo. You would get a large number of people who report your emails as spam, not unsubscribes. These are people who are reporting it as spam. They're pressing the easy button. If you get a large number of those, it's going to land you in email jail really quickly. That spam complaint threshold is no more than one complaint per 1,000 emails. One spam complaint per 1,000 emails. Now, Google and Microsoft, they specifically state that when you get 3 spam complaints per 1,000 emails, that you start to have problems. But what we're seeing in the real world is that 2 spam complaints starts to land you in hot water. So you need to keep it below the threshold. Minimal bounces. You can't have a lot of bad email addresses on your list. So don't be buying lists, right? That's one way to avoid that. But you got to make sure that you're keeping your list clean and protecting your database. And then thirdly, you need to send regularly and consistently to only your most engaged contacts, focusing on clicks and replies. And we're going to dive deeper into that here in just a minute. Regularly, consistently, most engaged contacts, focusing on clicks and replies. All of that is critically important. These are the key rule changes. Again, you violate any of these, you're going to miss out on the opportunities that you have to cash in on what email marketing can do for your business. So how do you profit? Well, let's dive into my email framework that turns inbox placement into money for your business. So we touched on this already. The first part of the framework is establish authentication. So I'm just going to quickly touch upon the different types of records that you need. These are the identification elements for your email. So just like when you're driving down the highway, if you get pulled over by a police officer, they're going to ask you for 3 things when you get pulled over. Can you type in the chat, what 3 things are police officers going to ask you for when you get pulled over on a traffic stop? Yep, Wendy's got it. They're going to ask you for driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. If you miss any one of those things, you're either getting a ticket or you're going to jail. If it's expired, you're going to have problems. Think of it the same way when your emails are going down the email marketing highway. You have to have 3 pieces of identification for your email to say this is authentic and it should be delivered. The first one is the DKIM record. This is configured for each platform from which you send email. So you're going to have multiple DKIM records in your DNS that prove that this platform is authorized to send on your behalf. The second piece of identification is SPF. So you're going to have one SPF record. I see this so often that many people end up having multiple SPF records, which invalidates them all and now creates problems. One SPF record, excuse me, and it identifies which systems have permission to email from your domain. So this is going to be all of those platforms that you say, hey, I'm sending emails from. These are okay. And then finally, you need to have a DMARC record. This basically tells mailbox providers what to do with any emails that aren't compliant with DKIM or SPF, that there's an issue, a glitch. Here's what I want you to do with my email in spite of that. Do I want you to deliver it to the inbox? Do I want you to quarantine it, put it into junk or spam? Or do I want you to not even attempt delivery at all? This is the underlying part of the DMARC record, is where most of you are exposed to cyber liability risk. The R&D mark stands for reports. Most people do not have a DMARC record that has actively monitored reporting. If you don't have reporting set up and somebody knowledgeable to interpret, to read those reports and look at what's happening with your domain, hackers and spammers could be using your domain to send out unwanted email without your knowledge. And this is happening more and more as the mailbox providers start tightening up their restrictions. I had a client that enrolled with me way back in January in my Hit the Inbox program. And as part of that, we monitor the DMARC reports. Because if you try to get them delivered to you individually, it's going to go into your email. It's written in code, XML code, and trying to decipher the data in it, it's just really impossible without using software to analyze it. Everything was great all the way up until September. And then in September, as I was monitoring their DMARC reports, I noticed that two really odd subdomains got created on underneath their primary domain, and that almost 2,000 emails were attempted to be sent out from those subdomains. As I got digging into it, the IP addresses where those emails were attempted to be sent from were from China. Chinese hackers somehow had created subdomains, not even on their actual DNS, their GoDaddy account. Chinese hackers had actually created these subdomains and tried to send out all these unwanted emails. And it would have damaged my client's ability to send their legitimate emails had they been successful. If you don't have DMARC reporting set up and actively monitored so that you know what you're looking at and what you're looking for, bad things can be happening without your knowledge. But because it's your domain, guess who's responsible for it? You are, right? So this authentication is really important. You have to have all three of these. It's getting to the point now where if you're missing DKIM, SPF, or DMARC, your emails are not going to get delivered to the inbox. The rules are there, and they are strictly enforcing those. The second part of the email framework is metric.
Sorry, can I ask a question regarding this? Because I'm
Sure.
sure
Yeah, go ahead.
people are wondering about this. What about people who are just getting started? They have a list of 100 people, 200, 500 people with something like ConvertKit. And I remember even when my list was like 3,000 people strong, I was still this was before February, to be fair,
Yeah.
but I was still using ConvertKit's built-in email sender tech and stuff like that. And then I set up DKIM and all that stuff that you just mentioned. But again, what about people who don't have huge lists? They have, let's say, 300, 500 people. Can they still get away with using ConvertKit's built-in stuff? Or do they have to worry about setting all this up in advance, even if they just want to, I don't know, send 100 emails per day because they only have 100 people on their list?
Sure, that's a great question. The answer is technically yes. You can ride the coattails of ConvertKit or MailChimp. I know is another platform that allows you to send from their domains. The problem with that is that you are now going to be penalized if there's some other bad actor that's doing the same thing. Okay? Because you don't have any control over that. You're seceding your control of the domain that you're actually emailing from because it's actually coming from ConvertKit or it's coming from MailChimp's generic domains that they allow the emails to be sent from. And so if you have somebody that joins and gets a ConvertKit account or a MailChimp account and they blast out 10,000 emails and 9,000 of them get reported as spam, you're going to be collateral damage. Even though you didn't do anything wrong, you're going to feel the effects of that. So it's best to have your own domain and establish your own authentication. And here's the benefit, and kind of ties into this next point, you're building your own reputation, right? Now you get to determine what does Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo think of me and my business as a sender, right? You get much more control over that as opposed to using a shared domain.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. That's what I'm doing now, and I know how important it is to monitor these things. I just
Yep.
also want to make sure that a lot of people, when they're just getting started with email marketing, this isn't like this huge, big roadblock on their radar, which prevents them from actually starting to send out emails and starting to make sales, because we all tend to like. Especially in the beginning, just procrastinate when it comes to regularly sending out emails. And,
Yep.
I'm just wondering, where is that sweet spot where you can still, get away with it to some degree, right? And it's way better than not getting started at all versus
Yeah.
now you do have to like seriously consider this.
Yeah, it's best, especially the way that the email marketing world is changing. It's best to do this when you are small. Build a solid foundation, make the investment, build a solid foundation because, as we'll touch upon some of the other things where there are problems, is that once your list gets big, and then you start sending from your own domain, you could actually have more problems when you shift over to that. So if you've done the proper foundation work from the beginning, it sets you up for better success.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So the second part of the email framework is monitor your metrics. So if you're serious about your business, you're already looking at numbers. You're looking at your financial reports. You're looking at your profit and loss statements. You're looking at your profitability on the different funnels and the products and services that you offer. You're looking at these numbers, and you need to be doing the same with your email. And there are several metrics that you need to monitor. First off, you need to regularly check your domain reputation, especially if you're sending emails from your domain. This lets you know, what does Google think of your domain? And now Google is really kind of the only one that kind of like tells you, what they think of you. But you can take what Google thinks, and you can be assured that Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo think very similarly. Okay. So you check your domain reputation. You just set up a Postmaster account, Google Postmaster Tools. So postmaster.google.com, and then you connect that to your domain with the instructions that they give you. Why is it important to check your domain reputation? Well, because when it tanks, your emails start to go to junk or spam, or they don't get delivered at all. Here's a client that I worked with. It's a $3,000 plus problem. Notice anything wrong here? Their domain reputation was high way back in April. Then in less than a week, notice how their domain reputation went from high straight to low. And then in less than a month, they really decided to jump into Lake Stupid and go down to bad. And that's where their domain reputation was stuck. When you start to hit medium with your domain reputation, more of your emails will start to land elsewhere than the inbox. Once they hit low, most all of your emails are going to go straight to junk or spam, including your one-to-one emails, not just your marketing emails. When it gets to bad, it's like 99% of your emails are not getting through. And you're definitely seeing issues with one-to-one emails. And it can happen pretty quickly. Like all in the frame of less than a month, did their domain reputation go from high to bad. Here's another client. Their domain reputation was low and they fell off and went into bad. This one, well, they were bad. They got it back up to low for just one day, and then it dropped back down to bad again. They stopped emailing for a little while. Then they managed to get it back up to low, and then that's where they've kind of like stayed for the time being. Every single one of these situations to get out of, basically email jail is $1,000 problem, multi-$1,000 problem. And it's not a quick solution. I had one client that when he came to work with me, that his domain reputation was already at low. And we fixed a lot of issues with his authentication and some other problems that he was having. He was like, all right, great. Now I can go do my launch. And I was like, oh, no, you're not. If you do your launch, you're not going to get the results that you expect that you're going to get. As a matter of fact, you're going to make the problem worse because now we need to address your domain reputation. We need to get that back up to high. And it took us 2 months to get him stabilized. It took us about 30 days to get his domain reputation from low to high. And then we took it another 30 days to stabilize his domain reputation to high so that he could then intelligently send out emails to his list and have a successful launch, which he did. He came back after we finished all that work. He was like, Scott, you saved my business. This is an important metric. You need to be looking at your domain reputation. Secondly, as I mentioned before, you've got to keep your spam complaints below 0.2%. So that's below 2 in every 1,000 emails. And really, you don't want to have it exceed 0.1%, 1 in every 1,000 emails. Otherwise, you're going to have problems and your domain reputation is going to start to take a hit. This one's important. You need to closely watch who is and who is not opening, clicking, and replying to your emails. Who's ignoring you?
Can
You've
I
got
add
to pay
something
attention.
once again, Scott?
Yep.
This is great stuff, by the way, and it's super helpful for people. I just wanted to highlight that 0.2% might seem terrifying to people because it's not like if you have just 1,000 people that like you can get there pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
almost every person who's watching this is on my list, and you got on my list through the Rapid Lead Activator book, which is my lead magnet. And one of the key ways you can avoid spam later on is to set expectations correctly upfront when people subscribe to your email list. So how
Yep.
I do it, and you can go back to the first email in the book, the welcome email, the trust builder welcome, is that you just tell people directly like, hey, like you're here, I want to serve you, I want to give you value, but in my case, I'm going to email you daily. If you don't like that, if you don't want that, unsubscribe right now. And I'm also going to be promoting stuff, pretty regularly because I do believe this will help you, like this, training right now. So again, if you're not into this, I get it. No worries. We can still part as friends, but decide now, right? And you have to build that emotional connection with people. That's what the Rapid Lead Activator is about. And if you have the Profitable Imprinting Sequence course as well, that goes even deeper into this. But I'm sure,
Yeah.
Scott, you're also going to share a bunch of strategies. And sorry for interjecting, but I know that this is something that I get asked often a lot from people
Yep.
who reply to some of my own emails. What I am doing, what you're observing in my email marketing is a great way to minimize those spam complaints. And as soon as somebody just mark something as spam, I immediately not just unsubscribe them, but block them as well. So because it's serious, like if you get something like that. But one of the best ways to remove that is to set expectations up front, is to build that connection, and to make sure that when they see an email from you, it's going to be something valuable or helpful or just something that adds to their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point to make there. Again, it goes back to, watching who's opening, clicking, and replying and who's not. You need to look at those metrics because Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo now, they don't consider opens at all. Google just recently updated their documentation that says we do not monitor opens. Google doesn't care who opens your emails. They care who's clicking on your emails and who's replying to your emails. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in just a minute. But these are the key numbers that you need to be looking at: a reputation, spam complaints, and engagement. All right. Those are the top three things. From there, this is where you need to be adopting consistent practices. All right. So you need to maintain a regular sending schedule. So just like Chava just said, set expectations in that welcome email. Hey, I'm going to email you daily. I'm going to email you weekly, right? And it's going to come out on, every Tuesday if you're going to email weekly. You need to make sure that you're maintaining a regular sending schedule because the mailbox providers no longer are looking favorably on people who sporadically send because that's spammer-like behavior. So they're looking for regular sending schedules. You also need to communicate at least once a week with your most engaged contacts. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo no longer like to see people emailing subscribers who haven't opened, clicked, or replied to an email in 90 days, 180 days, 2 years, whatever. You need to communicate at least once a week. And if you're communicating less than that, nobody has an opportunity to engage. So you need to communicate at least once a week. And I know Chava, sends daily emails. A lot of people think, oh, I can't do that. Maybe you can send 2 emails a week. It's really not that difficult. It's really not, because we have plenty that we can share. And then you need to avoid sudden spikes in email volume. This is something I'm seeing a lot of right now with people, is that maybe they have, 100 people on their list, and then they're like, oh man, I really need to re-engage my list. So now I'm going to send 500 emails. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You've been sending 100 emails for the past 7 weeks, and then now all of a sudden you're sending 500? What's going on here? And then they're going to start to throttle your emails. They're going to delay delivery. They may put some of them into junk or spam. It can damage your domain reputation. Abide by the rule of 10. If you're going to increase or decrease your sending volume, do it by no more than 10% than your previous communication. All right? That rule of 10 is really important there. So you want to adopt consistent practices. The fourth component of the email framework is improve your list hygiene. Improve your list hygiene. Regularly clean your list to remove invalid email addresses. You've got to watch your list closely because you cannot have a lot of bounces. If you get a lot of bounced emails, which typically happens if you haven't emailed your list in a while, those email addresses no longer exist, they're going to bounce. That tells Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, it's like, oh, Chava's not keeping his list clean. He's not following the rules. We need to start putting some punishment for that. Regularly clean your list. Secondly, make sure you're protecting your web forms from bot submissions. There are a lot of hackers and spammers out there just creating a lot of havoc right now, and they're just attacking web forms on websites so that they get added to your list. And of course, most emails are automated nowadays. Guess what? Those emails are going to bounce. They're going to cause problems. Or in the new thing that they're doing is they're using legit email addresses, but that person didn't actually sign up for your list, and now you get reported as spam. You've got to protect your web forms from bot submissions as well. Keep that list clean. And then again, closely monitor engagement. The rule of thumb now is you should only be sending to contacts who've opened, clicked, or replied in the last 3 months. And this is where I get a lot of pushback from people, and they start crying and weeping. It's like, but Scott, I've got people on my list from 17,000 years ago, and I can't just unsubscribe them because in the next 17,000 years, they might actually buy something from me. They're not. If they haven't been opening, clicking, and replying to your emails for 2.5 years, they're not going to do it in the next one that you send out tomorrow. If they're interested, they're going to get back onto your list and they're going to start re-engaging. We've got to get over the mentality that the size of our list matters, because it doesn't. It actually works against you. What matters is engagement. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, they're looking who's clicking and replying and doing positive things with your emails. Right before this webinar, I got an email from a client because I've been consulting them. And I said, okay, your open rates are good. And again, opens are not a great metric. But the clicks and replies, you need to be getting click rates at least 40 to 60%. The click rates need to be 40 to 60%. Now, that's a huge hurdle. Why? Because we have to come up with valuable content that gets people to click and or reply. And then we also have to train our audience, because we've all been trained. Hey, we get an email, we read it on our phone, and then we, go do something else, right? So it's not going to be an overnight thing. And this client, said, well, I've been doing a lot of research, and they're saying, like the industry average is the best you can get is like 10 to 15% click rate. Well, my answer to that is twofold. Number one is, who wants their business to be average? I don't. I don't want an average business. I want an exceptional business. And secondly, all of those studies, all of that research was from before 2024. So when it's talking about, well, the average open rate and the highest that, most industries get is 10 to 15%, that's not working in the realm of the new email marketing world that we're in today with all of the new rule changes. Now, do I expect my clients to get there overnight, even within a couple of months? No, but it's a process, but it's what we need to be working towards. Finally, the L in the framework, leverage value-driven content. How do you do this? Well, obviously you're writing content that people want to consume. And the best way to do that is that you're segmenting your list. If you've got several different lead magnets that people have been added to your list through, and they're all different topics, tag them, identify them somehow that, hey, this is what they were interested in. So Chava's got, his Rapid Lead Activator, then he's going to identify, okay, these people came into my list through the Rapid Lead Activator lead magnet. So now he knows that they're interested in that. Send more information about activating leads rapidly, right? So you want to segment your list based upon many different things, but you want to make sure that you're segmenting them so that you can have that targeted communication, that you're sending something that you know is of value to them. And then I recommend text-based emails with engaging stories and valuable content. Everything that Chava teaches is pure gold when it comes to writing emails. If you just look at the emails that he sends, that's what you need to be sending to your list. I send story-based emails to my list every single week, and I get a lot of positive feedback. Why? Because I'm creating curiosity, I'm sharing a story, and then I'm tying that into whatever the topic is that I want to discuss. So my email that I sent out yesterday, the topic of my email was about the uptick in emails going to promotions tabs, right? Because it is a problem that a lot of people have been complaining about. But I couldn't just open the email. Hey, have you noticed that you've got a lot more emails in the promotions folder? I mean, I could open it that way, but it's kind of boring, right? It's all dry. So how did I open that email? Well, I shared a story about my cat Simba and how he disappeared the other morning. And ultimately, I thought he had gotten outside, and instead, he was hiding in my closet. I only discovered him because I heard the faint meow, go look in the closet, and there he was. Now I was able to gather people's attention because I'm talking about my cat. It has nothing to do with email, but I'm talking about my cat, sharing the story, and then I tie it into, by the way, your emails might be hiding from your subscribers, and it might be over in the promotions tab. It didn't take long to really kind of like formulate that connection, but it got my subscribers reading and engaging and going further and further down the emails, right? So you need to leverage that value-driven content. For those of you that are still here, that's the framework. I want to talk real quickly about an opportunity that you have ahead. So those of you that are here, this is something that I think that you're going to like, because Apple is opening up something that's going to be a great opportunity that so many people have been asking for so long, and this is going to help you with engagement. They're launching what's called Apple branded mail. You can get better open rates and engagement because you will be able to stand out in your recipients' inboxes. Now, on the table here, you'll notice that it says that Apple is at 53.67%. That was in September. The latest statistics that I didn't update into here, but from October, 54.14% of all email users use Apple Mail to check their email. So with Apple branded mail over here, you can kind of see a screenshot. So your logo can actually show up next to your email messages in Apple Mail. So for all of your clients who are using Apple Mail, if you set up Apple branded mail, you can have your logo show up. So now it's not just your from name. People can recognize your email from your logo. It's not going to blend in with everybody else. If you're known for providing valuable content and stuff that people want to consume, now when they open their phone or they go to their Apple Mail on their computer, they're going to see, oh, there's an email from Wendy. Boom, I got to go read that first. I don't want to look at the United Airlines thing because I recognize Wendy's logo, right? So this is a great opportunity, but you have to meet strict compliance requirements in order to be eligible, mainly around the DMARC record. And sadly, most people are not in good shape with their DMARC or with all of the authentication piece to be able to take advantage of this. Because if you just go out and you set this up and you're not aware of DMARC and you haven't been monitoring it and you haven't fixed the issues, your emails are going to go to junk immediately. So you have to be very careful. But if you're in the right shape with your email marketing, following the best practices, have everything set up correctly, this is a huge opportunity for you. A huge opportunity. So I know I've gone pretty lengthy today, but I want to leave you with this. You have a choice to make, and doing nothing is a choice. Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Yahoo, they are moving ahead with enforcing the new rules to determine, are your emails going to get delivered and where are they going to land? If you want to make money from email marketing, if you want to build relationships with your list via email, you're going to have to abide by the new rules. And when you do, you're going to be like the guy here on the right. Your business is going to grow. You're going to flourish. Your launches are going to be wildly successful. Your emails are going to be delivered. People will be able to consume your content and say, wow, that helps me out in my life, in my business. But if you've attended today and you're like, man, this is way too much work. I don't want to keep on track of all this monitoring. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I don't know how to write emails. I had one client that's like, hey, I can't write weekly emails, and I can't, create something actionable for them to click on. Like, it's just not going to happen. If that's your mindset and you just sit back and say, nah, it is what it is, this is what's going to happen. Or if you just consume the information today and say, this was great. I'm aware now, but I'm not going to do anything with it. You're not going to get the results from your email marketing, and it's actually going to have a decline in your business because your emails will eventually start going to junk or spam, and then they will eventually stop getting delivered at all. That's devastating for most businesses today because we all rely so much on email communication. And it's not just our marketing emails that will be affected. It's our one-to-one emails as well. So Chaba and I communicating to prepare for this webinar, communicating over email. If Chaba hasn't done any of the stuff that we've talked about today, chances are his emails wouldn't make it to my inbox where we could have a discussion about, hey, what's this webinar going to be about? What are we going to present? But you have a choice. I'm to a fault. I care way too much more about my clients' businesses than I probably should. I want them to be wildly successful. And it pains me when I see people not taking the actions that I know that they should take that's going to help them grow their business and get the results that they deserve. But the choice is ultimately up to you. What are you going to do? So I'd like to leave you with this. Even if you think your email marketing is fine, you could be breaking rules that you don't know exist because there's new rules coming out every week. There's new changes that are being made. Just think back to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're still trying to figure out why Google is making those changes because they don't clearly communicate it. So if you want to know if things are well with your email marketing, I'm offering a Hit the Inbox audit. You can get peace of mind. Normally it's $3.99. Offering it for just $99 through the end of 2024. January 1st, it's going back up. And you can request it at hittheinboxaudit.com. And we can do an analysis if you're using one of the 9 platforms that my tools actually support. We can run that audit for you and let you know, hey, is everything good? What are areas of improvement that you have? Are you ready to take advantage of the Apple branded mail? Those are key things that we can help identify for you in this audit. So, all right, Chaba, I've seen a little bit of the chat running. I haven't been paying super close attention to it, but I think we may have a few questions in there that we can answer.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get to that though, well, first of all, Scott, amazing value delivered here. Thank you so much once again for giving us this presentation. And I'm sure pretty much every single person learned at least something here. I certainly have, even though I'm knee deep in this.
Yep.
And guys, like if you're serious about email and you feel like you could like you're having trouble setting this up, or you feel like this is not something that you're comfortable with, just hit Scott up, right? He's gonna fix it for you, and don't let your marketing be limited because of this. And also this audit, I think it's a no-brainer. So if you feel like this is something that you need, and most people do, then definitely take advantage of that. You've seen Scott, he over delivers, he cares about people. And I've known him from Brian Kurtz's Titans mastermind group. And Brian doesn't just let anybody in that group. You have to be a heart-centered person, someone who cares about others, and is not a snake or a bro marketer or something like that. So check it out. Let's get to the questions themselves. So we had a question from Chaba Test. Surprise, surprise. With open rates being so unreliable, what's the strategy to mail paid traffic opt-in leads who are not being marked as open click reply? This is for a $3,000 plus purchase where 50% of purchases occur after 180 days. So
Okay.
I'll let Scott answer it, and then I'll also add my 2 cents to it.
Yeah, so open rates are not an accurate method, but you still want to look at it, right? So you want to look at the open rates to see if it kind of gives you any sort of indication. Are you having problems getting your emails delivered? How well is your list engaging with your emails? The best thing that you can do is try to get them to click a link or reply. Now, the sad part is that very few CRM platforms actually track replies for you, right? And so really, that's why we're encouraging people to get clicks, because almost every CRM can show you who's actually clicked on an email and when that they actually clicked on an email. So you really want to try to get that click as much as possible. If you've got a longer sales cycle, the biggest thing, and a lot of people think, well, I can't communicate with them frequently, weekly, in between the time that they've come into our world and the time that they might buy. How can you provide value? What can you communicate to them that shows your expertise, that helps them make an informed decision? Not necessarily just pushing them to your product or service, but just helping them to make an informed decision in any way, shape, or form around it. How can you communicate that to them on a regular basis from the time that they come into your list? And the more that you can get them out of the inbox with those regular emails, go ahead and provide a link. It can be a video, it can be an audio message, it can be to a blog post, it can be a third party website that you're getting that click, so that now that when they click that link, you're starting to see better forms of engagement as opposed to just the open. Does that kind of help answer that question there?
Chaba Test says yes. I would also like to add something to that, namely, well, that's why the Rapid Lead Activator is so powerful, because you want to get them when they're hot, when they join the list, and you want to get them into the habit of opening emails and clicking emails and reading emails and replying to your emails even. Because if they start doing that early on, then they're much more exponentially more likely to do that later on as well. And again, Scott is right. Almost like none of the email service providers really track replies, they track clicks. I would say go with both. That's what I do. Try to get them to both reply to most of your emails as well as click, because a click is valuable in this regard, but replies are obviously super valuable in helping your next emails land in the primary inbox once again. And the original question was like, what if the 50% of purchases occur after 180 days? I would say most businesses are like this, actually, because, and again, if you read the book, The Rapid Lead Activator, you know that according to multiple experiments, about 80% of the money that you make from your list isn't generated after like 14 days or 30 days or even 60 days. The average time to conversion rate is much more than 3 months usually. And I can back that up with you with hard data. I recently promoted my new group implementation program, Front End Freedom. You've probably seen that. And we ended up with 9 people who joined us for this round. And the average time from people subscribing to my list and buying this was around 7 months. So there were 2 people who bought within 10 days or 14 days, and there were some people who bought after 3 years of being on my list. But the average, well, not even the average, the median actually was around 7 months. So think about it, 7 months. That's almost exactly what the question was referring to.
Yeah,
Oh,
great stuff.
yeah. So hope that answers the question. So another one, what about using list verification services such as Never Bounce?
Great tools to use, especially if you're cleaning up your list. There's a lot of them, that are out there. So Never Bounce, Zero Bounce, or a couple. Pabbly has an email list verifier. Usually what I recommend is that you use at least 2 different ones, because they all have kind of like different ways that they check email addresses, and that can help you make a more informed decision on, is this a legit email, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's a great one for sure. That's what I would also do. So another question, is there a safe way to get people from my old list where I haven't sent messages in ages and ask people to join my new list if they are interested? If I just send an email asking them, this is going to be a spike and have a lot of bounces, maybe even spam complaints. So again, I'll let Scott answer it first, and then I'll add my 2 cents as well.
You have to be extremely careful in doing that. So the first thing, if you haven't emailed them in a while, first thing is run those email addresses through a couple of list cleaners, because you want to try to remove proactively as many potential bounces as you can. All right. Then if you are going to email them, I really highly advise not to as a best practice, because if you've got, their email addresses and everything, you actually can, retarget them on Facebook. There's a lot of other ways that you can try to reach those people with their email addresses. But if you are going to email them, what I would recommend is that at the same time that you're communicating with your engaged list, all right? So let's say that you're sending a weekly email, and just for simple numbers, you've got 500, all right? So you're going to send a weekly email, 500 people every Tuesday. Then on Tuesday, it could be a separate campaign, but it's going to be on the same day. You could email 25 to 50 of your more unengaged contacts with that particular offer that you want to make to try to re-engage them. So now you've got 500 emails going out to people who've been opening, clicking, and replying very well. And now you're adding about, anywhere from 5 to 10% of that total number. So if you get some bounces, if you get a few spam complaints, if you get a lot of unengagement off of that, it's not going to have as damaging an effect because you've got the bulk of your list that's been engaged. So you're kind of mixing the two to try to get the best results and to minimize the potential damage that could occur. That's the best way to approach that if you're going to be emailing them. But that rule of 10 is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect thing that you should be doing. And I totally expected this answer from Scott. That's what you should be doing. If you want like a simpler version in a way, what I would do, I would combine this with developing a lead magnet or trying out an internal launch for a lead magnet that you already have, and treat your existing colder customer list as cold leads, not even part of your email list, and do like a 2-3 email campaign promoting the lead magnet to that list and prompting them to opt in to that once again. And the people who opt in will be your active list. However, I wouldn't mail them all at once. I would make segments, just like how Scott said, and just take it slow. Take it slow. Ideally, if you like really want to do it upfront, you can do it. But if you have thousands of people in that cold segment, I wouldn't just blast them with 3 emails, because that's 3,000 emails out of the sudden. That's not a good idea. But I would definitely try to get them to opt in again. Opt in again. What do you
Yeah,
think about that,
it's all
Scott?
about providing the value and the, what that they're interested in, right? Everything to email now, because we're bombarded. I mean, we all get way too many emails every single day. We have to provide value as quickly as possible in our emails, because if people aren't getting value from it, they're going to tune us out, and ultimately they're going to become unengaged. So, what Chaba teaches is, how do you provide value? Is that through a lead magnet? What is the content of your emails? That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, and one more thing to add to this is actually if you want to send 2 emails per week, and if we assume that you have an open rate of 30%, that means that, well, let's just go with like 3 emails per week, because that's already a stretch for a lot of people, and you have an average open rate of 3%, 30%. That means that on average, people are going to see 1 email per week. Your chances of getting marked as spam or having something bad happen to your email reputation is actually higher this way, because you don't have constant contact with those people on average, versus sending them more frequent emails, because then they're getting used to it. And if they don't want to get it, they're just unsubscribe. That's what usually happens. So again, a lot of people are afraid that, oh, if I email my list too many times, then they're not going to like it. It's not necessarily the case.
And real quick on that, so a couple of things. One is, if you've only been emailing weekly and you want to ramp up to a daily email, do it slowly. Keep it weekly, then go to 2 days a week, then to 3 days a week, then to 4, then to 5. Remember, none of the mailbox providers like to see spikes of anything. Spikes in numbers of subscribers, spikes in frequency, spikes in volume. They don't like spikes. All right. So you have to do it methodically. Slow and steady wins the race with email marketing. So you want to do it slowly and incrementally to build up to that. And here's the cool part. So I've got a couple of clients that they have lists of 10, 20,000 contacts. They email daily. There's been a couple of times where they've gotten some pretty significant spikes in spam complaints. Typically, it's been because one or two people marked 27 emails as spam. Why they did that, I don't know. They were cleaning out their inbox. That did no damage to their domain reputation, didn't have a single effect on their ability to get their emails delivered. Why? Because they're sending large numbers of emails every single day. They've built a reputation with Google that even though they did have something that was kind of a blip on the radar, Google said, we're not going to worry about it this time. You're good. So you build that reputation, then there are times that you can, kind of get by with something. I had a conversation with another client. They send a low volume number of emails and they're like, well, how come that, all of these big corporations that they can, do stuff and get by with things? Well, they're sending millions of emails every month. The more volume that you have, and the more frequency that you have, the less damage something is going to have when it's a little blip on the radar.
Yeah, I had that happen to me as well, and same thing. There was no hit at all because
Yep.
I constantly send email, and it's predictable. Like it's very, very predictable in most cases, and
Yeah.
mailbox providers like that, so they don't penalize me for it.
Yep.
Awesome. So thank you again for that, Scott. So we had another question. I don't understand how to use activate Apple branded email. So maybe if you can explain that again.
So basically, the purpose of setting up the Apple branded mail is simply so that your logo can appear next to emails for all of your recipients who use Apple Mail to check their email. So it doesn't matter what their email provider is, but if they're using Apple Mail on their iPhone or their iPad or their Mac to check their email, your logo can show up next to your email. Right now, it's just going to have some generic icon. So like, for example, you just have a generic icon inside of the chat. It's a CT because it's listed as Java test, right? It's a generic icon. It blends in with everybody else. It's got the blue background, and Ian underneath of you has the same blue background, but it just says IG. It does, none of those stands out. So if you're looking at your email, the only thing you can go on is like, okay, I'm looking at my from name. Well, those kind of blend together as well. But if I'm using Apple Mail and I see the logo for Chaba, it's going to be like, oh, I want to read Chaba's email. I don't care about all this other stuff that's in there. I'm going to go straight to Chaba's email because I've immediately recognized it, right? I know his logo, I know his brand. And so that's the benefit of using the Apple branded mail. Now, the part that you have to make sure that you're compliant with is the DMARC, because your DMARC has to have a strict policy. And if you don't have your authentication all in perfect order, Apple branded mail is going to work against you because your email will not go to the inbox. Your email will go to junk or spam. So that's why they have strict requirements, because Apple doesn't want everybody to be able to have this Apple branded mail. All right. They're kind of creating a barrier to entry. And so that's how they're doing it, is they're making sure you've got your authentication fully in order. Plus, they're also protecting their users against a bunch of spam. So those two pieces work together. And then there's certain steps that you have to go through that I did not cover, today on how to actually set that up.
Mhm. So it sounds like it's something that you really have to think through if you want to set that up. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Probably for most people, you don't want to necessarily play around with this unless you really have the help of someone like Scott, for example. Otherwise, you might mess it up. So just stay simple in the beginning. But yeah, so we have another question here. Is there a, where is it? Is there a different, is sending on the same day of the week and same time of the day ideal? Or so is the question is worded a little weirdly, but the idea behind it is that does it make sense to send at the exact same time? Does that matter or not really? Also,
Yeah,
they.
so it's all about the consistency. So the mailbox providers, they like consistency. So they like to see, oh, okay, Scott's going to send his email at 10:15 a.m. Central Time every single Tuesday. Great. We're going to expect that he's going to send emails out to his list at that date and that time. So the mailbox providers like that. But secondly, subconsciously, you're training your list. When can they expect to hear from you? And so if they know that they're going to hear from you every weekday at 9 a.m., perfect. If they're really interested in your content, they're going to be checking their inbox. And they're going to say, oh, I got an email from Chava today at 9 a.m. I know that it's coming. If you're sporadic, well, I send it on Monday and today it might be at 4 o'clock. And then Friday, like I might, get it out at 9 a.m., but it might be 10:15. Nobody has any idea when that email is going to come through. And so you're kind of training your list that this person isn't really that organized. They don't have, a consistent method there. So you want to make sure that, as much as you can, that you're having that consistency because, again, it's all about training your audience. And again, when we're talking about engagement as well, what do we want them to do? We want them to click. We want them to reply. That's a big shift for a lot of people. What do we have to do? We have to train them what we want them to do. So all of it plays together.
Mhm. Yeah, and also, like I send most of my emails at around 8 a.m., but not necessarily 8:00, either 8:05 or 7:55. Not, and there was
Yep.
a comment here from Keith who said like 70% of email is sent at the top of the hour, or I
Hmm.
send it at like 1 p.m. But once again, I'm conditioning people to expect an email from me at around that time. And most other email marketers who are good at the game are doing the same thing. And also, after a while, if you email enough times, your subject line doesn't matter that much. It's your name. Your name becomes the from line, becomes the subject line itself because they know, oh, this is an email from Chaba, so maybe this is gonna be cool. So I'm much more likely to open this. So another question that we had is how can a newbie obtain the required authentication? So this is a great question from Mia, and I think it's something a lot of people are wondering of like, I'm just getting started. How can I do this the easiest way possible?
Yeah. So, you know, ideally, you're having somebody, like myself, that's an expert in setting this up because there are a lot of nuances. And it's going to be a little bit different for every platform that you send from on the way that you go through in setting that up. So, having somebody who knows not just how to properly set them up, but to also ask the right questions. Like, what are all the platforms that you're sending from, and helping you think through all of these things, and then giving you the guidance. Now that you've got this set up, what's the next step that you should be doing,
Mhm.
right? What's the next piece of the puzzle that you really should be focusing on so that you get the best results from your email marketing?
And if they
Unfortunately,
want to
there's
have a
not
light
just a checklist
version,
that I can send and say, hey, do these three things and you're good to go.
and if they want to have a light version, like, okay, I just want to get started. I just want to validate whether email marketing even works for me before I start to send money on something like this. What's the easiest way for beginners?
If you're using an email marketing platform, like ConvertKit, Keep, ActiveCampaign, whatever, they give you some basic instructions, for, setting those types of things up. Again, they're leaving you at vulnerability with cybersecurity risk a little bit because their instructions aren't 100% complete, but it'll get you most of the way there. And you can just follow those instructions. Again, if tech stuff is not your thing, again, making that investment is well worth it so that you don't mess anything up because I have seen people try to do things on their own and they end up blocking their ability to even send one-to-one emails.
Mhm. That can happen. Yeah, and I've had some people lately who were complaining about the same thing. Like they send me emails and then they reached out via Messenger, Facebook Messenger, like, did you see my email? And I didn't. And it's because it went to spam directly, and it was a direct email, but from there send the reputation. So this is real. Also, like Mia, for me, I use ConvertKit, now Kit. It was very easy to set up there because they have some built-in tool for that. And most customer supports will definitely help you here because they are invested in helping you have a great experience and send more emails through their platform, right?
Mhm.
So obviously, if this is a big barrier, they're going to help you as well. So I'm guessing most customer supports. But what's the investment to set that up, average, like Mia is asking?
Generally, because there's a lot more that we do than just setting up the DNS, authentication. There's several other components that we have, but in all of our programs, it's usually $3.99 to get that started.
So it's not that terrible at all, even if you want to like hire a specific expert there. But if you want to do it alone, then I think most people can do it. You have to meddle around with tech stuff a little bit, but it depends on what you want to optimize for, time or money, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
I'm gonna give you
Yeah. And
options.
just so you know, I put into the chat. So I know that there's probably quite a few questions because we'll need to wrap up here in a minute that some we may not get to today. I did just create a new Hit the Inbox community on Facebook. It's a free group. So if there's questions that we didn't get to today, or maybe you've thought of other questions, as we've been talking today, feel free to hop in there. And I pop into that group usually once a day and, answer as many questions as I can. So happy to continue, answering questions as they come up in there too.
Yeah. So yeah, we want to be mindful of Scott's time. You've been so gracious with your time, Scott. Thank you so much once again for joining, for delivering so much value. Let's just, clap for Scott and give him a round of applause and just leave a comment in the chat. I'm going to share the chat with you after the meeting as well. Just if this was helpful, just leave a thank you or this was helpful or cheerio or anything like that because yeah, I'm really glad that we managed to schedule this, and we've had a lot of people on the call. So thanks again, guys. Thanks again, Scott.
Thank
Um,
you.
any any last minute thoughts, Scott?
No, I mean, this is something that, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, those people that take action and do the things that we covered today, man, 2025 is going to be an amazing year for them because they're going to be one of the few that are going to
Exactly.
be ready to rock email marketing going into the new year. So this is serious stuff, and there's going to be a lot of businesses that don't know about this or that say, "Hey, I'm not going to worry about that." If you get your email marketing house in order now, like the sky's the limit for
Yeah, so this is
2025.
scary stuff, but think about how many other people, 80% of the mediocre or bro marketers are going to just fall off.
Yep.
And you have an advantage, which is great.
Yep. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Chava. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks again, everyone. Talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye.